Hello, Hawthorne students. I'm so happy to be with you today, and I've missed you so much. And sorry I haven't been better at getting my lessons online. It's been a super big challenge for me, and I hope this works. Today, I'd like to share with you some of the beautiful flowers that we've seen blooming right now. How many of you know this flower? My daffodils. They just barely finished blooming, and I've just put the bulbs to bed for the season. This too. Anyone know this one? This one's a tulip. Today we're talking about flowers. So grateful that we have these gorgeous blooms that come up in the spring. And of course, as we observe and notice the beauty of flowers, I can't help but think about one of my favorite artists, and her name is Georgia O'Keeffe. Many of you have heard me talk about her. I just finished a novel that I enjoyed reading so much of Georgia O'Keeffe's. She grew up in the Midwest on a farm, and she went to Texas to become a teacher. And the Texas landscape was big, open spaces that were very open and dry. And she kind of loved the Texas desert, but she met a man named Alfred Stieglitz who took her to New York City for the first time. And there she started to understand what it was like to live in a city. Her life was one of learning how to teach, just like mine has been. And I have to say how much I miss face-to-face teaching, being in a classroom with a group of kids, getting messy with paint, and sharing together our love for art. But today we're talking about Georgia O'Keeffe. And one of my favorite books that I have is hers, that I don't have the cover on it anymore, but it's called Georgia O'Keeffe 100 Flowers. And I'm going to just show you a few today to get you excited to start on a project. So Georgia believed that people were so busy in their everyday lives that we all needed to take more time to stop and view and enjoy looking at flowers. And she kind of looked at them from a bumblebee perspective, imagining what it would be like to fly right into the center of one of these gorgeous flowers. Here we have a few of her famous ones. I'm sorry, I hope the color is showing up okay. But she painted these paintings very large. Many of them were as big as 4 feet across, 6 feet high. She felt like that if people stopped to look at what a flower might be, they might have a moment of seeing things from a different perspective. Some of her paintings move into what we call abstract art. Now, abstract art it's art that's representational of something, but if you didn't know you were looking at a flower, you might imagine that as just interesting lines and shapes, such as this one. This one is also even more abstract. It's as if she just zoomed in and decided to show the very center, the stamen of the flower. Now, her colors are often bright, or she loved to use, I would love to ask you the question, what is it called when you put opposites next to each other? This is called contrast. And Georgia O'Keeffe loved to have the contrast of something very dark against something very light. There's another form of contrast that I'm going to show you in a minute. But again, this painting would be more abstract because it's so large inside the flower. You may not know that that's really a flower. Oh, I I should have marked these so that I could share with you. Again, what's that word? When unless you knew you were looking at a flower, this is called abstract. This is a painting that is more abstract. Now this one definitely looks like a flower. And the thing I love about her flowers is how large they are. How they're just bursting off the edges of the page. Sometimes they look like they've absolutely come to life right before you, and that you are a bee flying right into that center of that black. This one looks like a black pansy, but I'm not sure. This flower, oh my goodness, look at the size of this. This took up a whole wall. These are cactus flowers, blooming cactus. I was just down on the desert, snuck away to St. George, and got to see blooming cactus. The ones there were blooming in magenta. But these delicate flowers, talk about contrast, bloom on top of a prickly canvas. Now I'm just going to, let's see, skip through a few. Let me find the poppies. That's the one that is probably her very most famous. Oh, there's another one that is a giant lily. And then, can't remember the name of that one. But aren't these gorgeous? Her giant flowers. Again, a giant lily. The calla lily. Okay, gotta find the poppies, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do for our project today. I hope you've had a chance to do some art. I had hoped to do a lot more than I have. Poppies. There's a beautiful grouping of flowers. And I hope now that I am getting set with doing my lessons through my email that you will send me some pictures that you have created and that show me what you've been up to. And I will do the same with you. Here's one I was looking for. This is one of my favorites. Have you ever seen a black flower? This is called the Jack in the Pulpit. Isn't that amazing? 2 different paintings. Often she would just study the flower and do painting after painting till she got one she really liked. Speaking of paintings, if you haven't seen the videos I've sent so far, that's one of mine in the background. I still haven't found the poppies, but we're going to go ahead and start on our art project. So what we're doing for our project today is we are going to paint a flower, a Georgia O'Keeffe sized flower. Now, she often looked, this is an orchid, by the way, and a daisy. She would look at real flowers and study them for a long time, and then she would have that flower just bursting off the edge of the page. Here's another of her Jack in the Pulpit. Here's the one I was looking for, her giant California poppy. Do any of you have poppies? This light is not great. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pause here for a minute and then be right back.